Natural law are the laws of God. They have nothing whatsoever to do with the laws of man. Okay? So let's look at this dynamic. Here's someone who wants to be God, who thinks that they're God. They're in the Saturnian, cult, the black-robed cult, the disciplinarian cult of Saturn, okay? Wielding the hammer of God, right? Wielding the symbolic hammer of Thor, or nature. They are commanding nature, the axe, the hammer, the flag, okay? This is the idea of the stylized flagpole that then became an axe or hammer in other cultures. In the Norse culture, it became the hammer of Thor, and again in hero cults that eventually paved the way for Freemasonry, it became the sacred axe, often depicted as having a single blade, but then often depicted having a double blade, looking very much like, if you turned it upside down, Thor's hammer. Okay? And that's what this is depicting here. This is someone saying, I wield nature. Okay? Because I'm God. I wield the law. This is Satanism. Ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake. That's a Satanist. All of them. Not some of them. All of them. By the very nature that they believe they're the law. That they even represent the law. That's a Satanist. Go back to this image full screen. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a Satanist. That's what a Satanist looks like. And they give you their mini-me version of Satanism to believe in, so that they can control you and judge you and wield power over you. And because you believe it, you've fallen into their cult power and influence. And let me tell you something. It's a cult without a name. It's a cult without ethnic boundaries. It's a cult without financial boundaries. It's a cult without cultural boundaries. It's a cult without ostensible religious boundaries. It's a cult with no boundaries according to age, with no boundaries according to sex. None. They don't make those distinguishments. They don't make those, gradations. As long as you're working toward the aims of the cult, that's all that matters. And this is what people have to understand about worldwide Satanism. They're not all rich white men. It's not all Jewish people. It's not all Freemasons. It's not all Jesuits. These are all lack of understanding of how the dynamic of the occult really works in the real world. Okay? That's like saying all mafias are Italian mafias. No, incorrect. There's Jewish mafias, there's Russian mafias, there's Latino mafias, there's French mafias, there's Chinese mafias, there's mafias in every culture. Has absolutely nothing to do with one group of people, folks. The occult are people that understand the human psyche and the laws of nature, are holding back that understanding from other people by discouraging people from looking into those laws. And therefore they wield an extreme power differential over the ignorant. Okay? You have the psychopathi ruling over the ignorati. All right? That's what it really is. Has nothing to do with the Illuminati. It has to do with the psychopathi and the ignorati. Okay? And the psychopathi rule the ignorati, because the ignorati remain ignorant. The illuminated, the Illuminati, are people like me who are trying to explain the truth to people that don't want to fucking hear it. Who need to just give up this endeavor and say it was never possible from the beginning because you were never working with prima materia. You were never working with prime matter, with first matter that is capable of being converted into a body of light mentally. You can't shine shit, in other words. And when you slap it, it smears. When you slap it, it splatters. And when you try to shine it, it smears. Okay? That's what humanity is. I wish I didn't have to say it that way, folks. But my life experience has taught me otherwise. My life experience has taught me that what these people are saying is absolutely true. And it doesn't mean I agree with their methods or want them to succeed. You know? At some point, it's like I don't take anybody's side but the truth. That's it. I'm not on their side, and I'm most certainly not on your side. I'm on the side of truth itself, and that's what I serve. Let's look at, finally, before we take some calls, a couple of slides from my natural law seminar. This was the breakdown between natural law and man's law and the difference between them. Natural law is based upon eternal principles and truth that are inherent to creation. Man's law, on the other hand, is based on dogmatic beliefs, which are constructural ideas that exist nowhere but in the human mind. Natural law can only ever be harmonized with. It can be discovered and harmonized with due to knowledge and understanding. Whereas man's law can only be complied with due to fear of punishment. That's the only reason people follow man's law. The reason people follow natural law is because they develop an understanding by way of knowledge regarding what the consequences of human behavior will be in the natural domain. And if they say that they want a better result, then they adjust the behavior to bring it into accordance with higher level spiritual law. Natural law is universal. It exists and applies anywhere in the universe regardless of location, whereas man's law differs with location based upon the whim of legislators, which is one of the definitions of moral relativism. Natural law is eternal and immutable. It exists and applies for as long as the universe exists and cannot ever be changed. Man's law, on the other hand, changes with time based upon the whim of legislators, a definition of moral relativism. When we understand the differences, the true inherent differences between man's law and natural law, we have to ask the question. We come down to an understanding. Well, so what does this mean for man's law? Well, here's what it actually means for man's law. We apply simple if-then logic, if we have the ability to reason and cognize at a simple if-then logical level. If a particular man-made law is in harmony with natural law, then it follows logically that it is redundant. That's like stating that the sky refracts a blue color on the earth during a cloudless sunny day. That's a redundancy. You cannot, writing that down and saying it is a law that the sky refracts a blue color during a sunny cloudless day from the earth is a redundancy. It just does that. That's how it just works. You writing it means nothing. Okay, you can come to an understanding of that and write it down so that other people can come to an understanding of it, but that doesn't mean that that's what makes it true. Just like me saying this isn't what makes it true. It's true regardless of whether I ever spoke it or not. So if it's in harmony with natural law, it follows logically that a man-made law is redundant since it is stating a truth that is inherent, pre-existing, and self-evident. Therefore, that law is both irrelevant and unnecessary. You are stating what is already true. Now let's do another if-then statement. If a particular man-made law is in opposition to natural law, then it follows logically that it is both false, meaning it is incorrect, and it is immoral, meaning it is causing harm. It is harmful to other sentient beings. Or in other words, it is wrong, the word that we use for both false and immoral. Whereas we use the word right for both true and moral. Therefore, that law cannot be legitimately binding upon anyone. It cannot be legitimately binding. Only the natural law can be legitimately binding. So what does this mean for man's law? It means you throw it out. It has no place in the natural world. It doesn't bind you or me. It has absolutely no bearing on human behavior except when people believe that it's legitimate and then live their lives violently in opposition to natural law because of their cult belief in man's law. That's all that's happening. Folks, we have to understand natural law is a force that exists in the universe, in nature itself. It has absolutely no basis in man or humanity. It only applies to humanity. But it is not man-made. It is not a man-made force. Natural law exists everywhere in creation. There is no place you can go in the universe to escape it. Man, if humanity, humankind in general, if we are being honest with ourselves, the only thing that we can really genuinely do is to discover how natural law operates in our world. And then we could try to convey that understanding to others to help them not to have to go through the immensity of suffering that is culminating at the period in human history in which we are living and which our descendants are going to unfortunately have to live. You know, this is what the occult is to me. When I was looking for an image to represent the world of the occult, the world of the understanding of the hidden laws of nature, this is the image that I pulled from the internet, because it represents striving to understand natural law. It represents what delving into the matter that comprises the occult world more than any other image that I've ever found. And look, folks, when we understand natural law, it's the key to everything. Okay? It is the key, as I've said many times, that will unlock all the doors, all the locks on all the doors to all the cages, all the prisons. You know, with that key, we can do anything. Without it, we're wandering lost in a desert, blind. So if you can hear the wisdom in the words that I have spoken here today, try to understand deeply what natural law is. Watch my whole seminar on it and other podcasts that I've done on it. Read the resources that I'm going to post with this podcast. Watch some of the videos I'm going to post with this podcast and understand what natural law most certainly is not. And understand it well enough that you can convey that to others. Because that's what the great work is ultimately all about. Once you have that key in hand, okay, just to go back to this final slide one moment, okay, once you have that master key in hand, right, it's not there for you to just hold and wield selfishly. It is there for you to hand off to other people. Just look at it making copies of. You're making digital copies of it, and you're giving out those decryption keys for how the universe works to the rest of your fellow brothers and sisters in humanity. Okay, that's what the great work is to do. All right, so with that, that concludes my formal slide presentation for this episode of What on Earth is Happening, entitled What Natural Law is Not. I hope you enjoyed it.